Hey guys, for my flipped classroom project, I'm going to be teaching you guys about defects in welds. These are mostly MIG defects, but these can also happen to you with any other welding process. Alright, the first defect or void is porosity. And what porosity is it's these little tiny holes throughout the weld. Now, this bead in particular has clusters of porosity. Now, what a cluster of porosity is when you have a lot of porosity in one spot, like right here, and throughout this whole bead where I pretty much just pointed. Now, that can happen from not having any gas at all, or your gas being blown away by wind, or by you welding over slag. I will get into slag in the next bead or two. Now, the next bead I'm going to be telling you guys about with a defect is called a crater. And a crater is right here. It's when you have a little, it dips in right here. If you guys can't really tell, there's a little hole right here. And pretty much that just shows that this bead wasn't completed properly, like it wasn't filled up at the end. But other than that, this bead is pretty good. It has a few slag inclusions, but that's just because I did not take the time to clean it up. But other than that, this is a pretty good bead. Now the next bead we're going to get into that is a defect is called slag. Slag shields your bead from all air and pretty much any contaminants throughout your weld. So, yeah, that happens when you have either a gas forming slag on your weld like MIG does, now, or when you're using flux with a welding electrode for stick, or flux core, because flux core has the flux coating on it too. Now, if you weld over this, like I said previously, you will have porosity. Now, to the next one. This defect is called spatter. What spatter is it's these little tiny spots of metal that they're kind of just thrown all over the place here. And what happens when that happens, like when it's excessive like this, it means your bead is pretty weak because you don't have this metal in this bead. And another problem with this bead that I'm telling you guys about is it was run way too slow. And this bead right here, which is another defect, was ran way too fast. You can tell because the size comparison. This one's really thick, this one's very thin. And this one right here, this is a pretty good bead. This is what you want to shoot for if you're a beginner. Now, the final defect I'm going to be teaching you guys about is called undercut. Now, this is one of my plates that I use to take a MIG test on. Now, undercut is this in between my welds here. It's right here, and you can see it because it looks like somebody kind of bit into the weld. Now, that happened because I was running it too fast and I was staying in the same spot for too long. So I was moving pretty slow and I was moving hot. So what happens is it pretty much just melts into this other bead. And if you have a lot of it, that can be a major problem with your weld. But if you have a little bit like I do, it may not completely destroy your weld. Now, you guys may have noticed a difference between this weld and these welds. These welds right here, they're called stringer beads. And I drew a little diagram to show you. A stringer bead is pretty much just one straight line, pretty much just kind of stacked. And when I mean stacked, I mean kind of like this one where it's See how it's kind of stacked upon each other. Or you can have it, nice and smooth. And this weld right here is called a stringer, or not a stringer. This is a weave bead. My apologies for the little mistake. And a weave bead you can vary from Z weaves to figure eights, to squares. It doesn't matter. It's a weave bead. And with this one, I did a Z weave, so it kind of looks like this. It's a back and forth motion as you're traveling. I find that these weave beads are a lot stronger than stringers, but that is my own opinion. And it may also be true, but I'm just saying that is my opinion. I hope that I've taught you guys a little bit about some voids and defects in welds. There is a lot more than just these few that I've told you guys about. I hope I've helped you learn a little bit about welding. And yeah, that would conclude my project.